Welcome back. The Finder begins the morning and says that ECG tariffs to go down. President Akufo-Addo hints. That's the big one on the Finder this morning. About 4 or 5 newspapers carrying the same story. The Daily Graphic speak out against societal ills. President tells the church, and ban on small-scale mining extended by 3 months. The Heritage says sanitation key in any city, says Akufo-Addo as he tours Accra compost and recycling plant. The Statesman John Mahama and Mary connection exposed. And Akufo-Addo celebrates entrepreneurs. And the Today newspaper says private universities face collapse. That's according to Professor Nsuwa. But those are some of the papers I have with me here. The Ghanaian Times also talks about the tariffs to go down, 2018 budget statement, electricity tariffs to reduce. That's a huge question the Times is asking this morning. My guest to do the talking, Member of Parliament for the Secondary constituency, a member of the NPP, Honorable Andrew Ejapa Mesa. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're doing great.
I'm very, very well. Yourself?
I'm good too.
Good, of course. Good morning to my senior.
Your senior here. Yes. Nia Dekoka is the Greater Accra Regional Chair of the NDC. Good morning to you. Have met your junior here.
Yeah, very, very. I mean, you have
they are disco family, I guess.
I have to sanction him, coming to. Yeah, he knows I should be homeworking him so many years back.
I'm sure by the time he leaves there, his Gary will be gone.
I tell you.
All right. Let's start with the electricity this morning. I have about 5 newspapers from the Finder to the Statesman to the Today newspaper. Almost everyone is talking about it. But let's take a look at what's in the Finder. The story says that Ghanaians should expect a major announcement on the reduction of electricity tariffs when the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, presents a 2018 budget on the floor of Parliament on Wednesday. The President, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, gave the hint when he addressed captains of industry at the 6th Association of Ghana Industries Quality Awards night last Saturday. Government is moving to set in motion the process for the review of tariffs, and in the budget to be read by the Minister of Finance on Wednesday, November 15. I'm sure you will hear some good news in this regard. That's the President talking there. The Minister of Energy, Mr. Boakye Jacques, also earlier hinted that the various deals reached by government for the supply of gas to power the country's thermal plants should translate into a reduction of tariffs. At the conclusion of the arrangement, it is our faithful expectation that gas as a feedstock instead of crude oil would be cheaper in terms of power production. This could mean that once the cost of producing electricity comes down, we will be in a further position to lower the user tariffs that our citizens pay for electricity. The minister noted in an earlier statement. So the tariffs, we've been hinted about it going down. Honorable Ejapa Mesa, let me start with you. So this is something consumers, industry are waiting for. The Vice President was said to be talking about 25% reduction. How should we expect this?
Well, let me just say good morning to our cherished viewers, particularly those in my constituency, Second D.
Yeah.
Of course, if the Vice President, who is the head of the economic management team, gives a clear indication as to the level of reduction that is going to happen, of course, clearly, I do not have any cause to doubt him at all.
We should bank our hope on that.
Absolutely. And I know. And of course, this is not coming as a surprise to me at all. Because the NPP government clearly indicated its dissatisfaction with the levels of prices that we pay for electricity in this country. You recall it was a major campaign issue in the run-up to the 2016 general election. Of course, I've heard people argue that the government essentially has reneged on its promise to reduce the level of tariffs when it came into government. But I'm quick to point out to them that the government has a 4-year mandate. And in managing the economy, you evaluate what it is that you inherited and prudently roll out your policies in a manner that would have minimal impact on the economy, and of course also grant reliefs to the Ghanaian populace. And so it is the expectation of every Ghanaian that government would manage this country prudently. And so yes, promises are made in a manifesto, which in any event is a 4-year document. And it is the expectation of the people who entrust you with the responsibility of governing to be prudent and rational, and so that, because there are consequences for every decision. And so if the government came and, of course, with all the impactful policies that it's implemented, okay, free SHS, restoration of nursing training allowances, reduction in some level of taxes, you did not expect that all the reliefs would come in 1 year. So I'm not surprised at all. And you recall we've had this discussion here before, and I indicated clearly that from where I sit, I know that in the 2018 budget, additional reliefs would be made available to the people of Ghana, just so that the productive economy that this government wants to roll out. We've all heard His Excellency the President clearly indicate that we cannot continue to be a Goggisberg economy where our resources are exported in its raw state without any value addition. It's important that we move into gear 2 of industrialization, where we process some of our resources that His Almighty God Himself has bestowed on this country, just so that we can get more value. And we know the effect of energy in our industrialization setup. And so it's important that, having evaluated the economy, sought to stabilize some of the issues that we met in year 1 of our government, we can shift into another gear, provide additional incentives. I know that there's been a complete review of the entire energy value chain, and some savings, significant ones, are going to be made in there that would bring the cost of electricity down, as the Vice President stated. And so it's happy days for Ghana. I'm very excited about the budget that is coming. We'll all see what it is that the details contain, and I'm sure that it will spur the growth that we all so much desire, so that the jobs that are so very much needed by all of us. You know, I've always said that, of course, now I'm in active public service, but I have a license from the Speaker to practice law privately as well. And so if the economy grows, the better for everybody. Accountants get business, lawyers get business, people get jobs, and it will be good for Ghana. And so I'm very, very excited about what the 2018 budget promises to deliver.
Right, I'm grateful. Nia Dekuka, so one of the key promises of the MPP was to reduce tariffs, and if the 2018 budget sees this reduction, we should be talking about the government beginning to fulfill some of its promises.
But let me say good morning to you and my colleague here and the viewers out there. I'll wait to see the reduction. You know, you can say reduction. It can be 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, and it's still a reduction. We don't want to have a situation where it is because of the pressure on government to fulfill its manifesto promises. So he's being rushed into reducing things. Like my brother said, free SHS, and we are all seeing the consequences of the free SHS. The president himself has come to say that there are a lot of challenges that they did not anticipated, so they are working on it. Free, what do you call it, nurses allowance. Well, in an economy where your revenue, seems to know the targets are not being able to be reached, And if you reduce this one, you don't forget that it's going to be another reduction in your revenue. Secondly, the ECG and VRA, they've got some debts that they have to pay. Huge outstanding debts. And part of the tariffs is to enable them to pay off the debts. So we want to see the level of reduction, you see. Politicians, when we come in, we are quick to, like he said, it's a 4-year mandate that they've given them. And probably they want to roll out the 4-year mandate within 12 months. Because January 1st, January 7th will be 1 year. So within that 1 year, all the promises that they made, they want to be seen to have rolled them out. So we want to see, because there are a lot of consequences when you do all this. There's a multiplier effect, there's a backlash. Now, when you do this, you want the fuel. We are also asking, I'm sure everybody will want, a year today, fuel was being sold at 14 cedis per liter. Now it's 20
per gallon.
Per gallon, sorry. And now it's 20 cedis per gallon, right? So are we also going to reduce the fuel? Because we want that one to be looked at. So when they are reducing the tariffs, they shouldn't forget that the fuel too must be looked at, because the taxi drivers and all are on the verge of wanting to go on strike, but the police are hindering them. So it's good news, but like everybody, we want to see what is in it before we can really ECG tends to go down. By how much? Say 25%.
That's the Vice President.
That would be very huge. I mean, all of us will be laughing to the bank because we'll be making a lot of savings. But are you sure it's going to be 25%? Let's wait and see. We let the budget. It's only 3 days since the budget will come. I mean, these are things that people are really going to look at it. Once you make this statement, then make sure that you do, because there's going to be strict proof. This particular thing will be strict. People are really going to look at the line and the percentage. If it's going to be just some 1 or 2 percentage points, how are you going to go about it? How effective is it going to be? Because in one of their mantra, they said rents was even higher than electricity was even higher than rents. So is it going to be vice versa? Electricity are going to be cheaper than rent? We want to see. All that we have to do is to wait and see. It's good to make nice promises. It's good to have, headlines. But then at the end of the day, what is in the pudding? What is in the pudding is what is necessary. So let's wait till Wednesday, and we cannot come back and look at the figures. And if they've done a good job, we are going to applaud them. But if it's just something to give the impression that I am satisfying manifesto promises, which at the end of the day gives us a lot of backlash, a lot of problems. When you go to our school at the Southern now, there's huge problem, a huge problem that I'm told that some Elliot House, where where my house used to be, I'm told that when you go there, the students are really cramped in the dormitory because there's no space. But because of the free SHS, a lot of intake has taken place. But how they are sleeping, the facilities are not there. So these are the kind of things that we must be very careful. They are noble ideas, but then when you don't because of political expediency, right? We do these things, and then at the end of the day, it comes to haunt us.
I'm grateful. Honorable Ejapamesa, let me quickly chip in this. The Energy Minister is said to have said in the story that on the faithful expectation that gas as a feedstock instead of crude oil will be cheaper in terms of power production. This could mean that once the cost of producing electricity comes down, we'll be in a further position to lower the tariffs. We have gone into certain arrangement to have gas with Equatorial Guinea and even our own system here, the Abuaze plant, where we're trying to get the gas to Tema in a reverse kind of thing. Mr. Adekoka seemed to be cautioning that we should be careful not to slash the tariffs, but to ensure that indeed these gas is in there so that cost of production is cheaper before we talk about this. Is there a caution that should be well taken?
Well, of course, if it's not leased with politics, but well-intended caution. I believe that the policymakers will take it on. But like I said earlier, I am aware that there's been a complete review of the entire value chain, right from gas all the way up to the end user chain, and clearly there are ways that some
cutting
savings
down the cost
absolutely can be made.
We're still using crude. A lot of it is from crude. We know
yes,
thermal produces of 50% of electricity now.
You see, if I have some information that I think may not be appropriate to put out, but you see, there's unfortunately the E&I gas that is coming is relatively much more expensive than what we're getting from Jubilee because of the arrangement that government of Mr. Mahama through the GMPC got from E&I. I mean, it's the most expensive gas in the whole world at the time. Thankfully, E&I, realizing that they themselves probably was charging Ghana way in excess of what was competitive, have given indication of reducing it to about 6.25 cents or so. But there's a lot of activity that is going on in the gas space that is expected to, as it were, power the energy needs of our country. Look, you recall that His Excellency the Vice President has consistently said that it is not for want of generation capacity. It's always been about finance. Okay. Now we've had to keep car power because the agreement that we signed with E&I, for instance, is a take or pay. We don't take the gas, we still pay for it. And so necessarily we have to retain car power. And the tariffs from car power is relatively higher than from the other IPPs that are around. We are saddled with Ameri, which is generating power at a relatively higher tariff than most of the IPPs around. So it is not entirely easy to, as it were, reduce the tariffs significantly as we would all have wished. But like I said, some work has gone into a complete review of the value chain, and the Vice President is put it out there that a 25% maximum reduction is going to be seen. As to whether it's going to go into industry or domestic consumption, we're yet to know. But I'm sure that
the Vice President, 25% is for industry.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure that some relief will go to the domestic consumers as well, because if you look at the comparative rates that is paid by the industry, which is about 38 cents per kilowatt hour, whilst domestic pay is about 17 to 19. It's important that some reduction goes in there so that the jobs that we all need and we have been talking about.
Right, I'm grateful.
It's achieved.
Right, let's quickly move on, but let's start in this one. The President is again saying that the 2018 budget statement and economic policy of government which will be delivered in Parliament, will focus mainly on job creation. Addressing the number of chiefs and people of Gamashi and Osu at Manche, Agbona in Accra last Friday, the President said the budget would highlight government's industrialization agenda and create jobs for the country. The President talked about what the economy has been done, and he's talking about an economy that is ready for a takeoff. This week, the Finance Minister will present the budget to Parliament and said it will focus on job creation. The Minister is a magician. That's according to the President. He always finds resources at places you never expect him to find. That's the President talking there. He said that the economy will be strengthened by the budget, which will focus on removing the bottlenecks in doing business and which will also consolidate the withdrawal of certain taxes described as nuisance taxes. So these are the projects that are expected to provide the jobs. The infrastructure for poverty eradication program. And under the program, there are the one district, one factory, one village, one dam, small business development, agricultural inputs, including equipment, water for all projects, and sanitation. These projects are supposed to provide the needed jobs for the country. That's the president talking them. Mr. Adekoya, let me begin with you. The issue of jobs is key here. We've seen an economy that perhaps has stabilized to some extent. The president says that this is the time to build on and provide the jobs. We can trust the provision of jobs in the 2018 budget.
Right, as I said earlier on, at this moment of time, the president is giving everybody hope. And I'm saying that until Wednesday comes, where we will see what is in it, we can only make speculation. But it's a good idea that you want to create jobs. Because there's a lot of youth unemployment in the system. So anything that will enable jobs to be created is welcome. But I thought they were.
Have you seen an economy that is ready to create jobs?
Well, for the past 12 months, nothing has happened. For the past 12 months, you go out there, a lot of people are struggling, right? So when you say economy is going to take off, I want to find out. You see, economy will be robust.
That's the proper thing to say. For the past 8 years, nothing has happened.
Please. You see, when I'm on this program, when you are talking, if you have a problem, give him a pen and a paper. The producer,
I have a notepad on my phone. Don't worry about
it. Just make notes, and then you can
react.
Otherwise, you throw me off.
What I said, Santa Claus, you can always recover and deliver. So,
you know, like I was saying, jobs such as sanitation, those jobs is to clean the streets. You see, you want sustainable jobs. That's the important thing. You know, so you want sustainable jobs. All these things that you are saying, they are micro jobs that for a period of time they fizzle out. But you want long-term jobs. So I thought they'll come out with policies that will give us long-term, and you know how you create long-term infrastructure development.
The one district, one factory is one of them.
You see, this one district, one factory, there's something called economics of scale. And also, you look at what type of industry, what type of factory are you going to put up? Nobody has. People just say one district, one factory. What type of factory? Are you going to put up a factory that is going to employ 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 people? Nobody. We just use those words and we don't interrogate it. How many people are they going to employ? You see, but when you are talking about sustainable jobs, you are talking about, and every country that thrives on job creation, which is sustainable, is infrastructure development. Because you have a huge deficit in housing. So if you take the housing sector, for instance, and you say that for the next 5 years, we are going to build X amount of houses all over the place, that job is sustainable because you don't have the masons, the carpenters, the steel benders, all manner of people, the food vendors. You understand? So that job for the next 5 years, they are creating a sustainable job situation. So it depends on what you are talking about. What you read there are these micro things that you have a few people here and there cleaning the streets and that kind of thing, which every government over the years has practiced that. At the end of the day, after a few number of years, it fizzles out. Now we go back to square one. Have we been able to clear our filth over the years? No, because the way we go about it is not sustainable. So I want to see the budget, and I want to see, my brother used the word, want to change the Gordonsburg economy, right? You are talking about huge factories. You go to China, and what has happened there? The factories there don't employ only 100 or 200 people. We are talking of massive infrastructure development, massive industrial development, massive. That's what we are talking about. This is what will take the youth out of the street, but this tinkling with the system and then creating one or two poverty alleviation and those things, they don't go very far. So let's wait and see if it is the same managing of social deficiencies, one or two. But then we are looking for huge, massive. I thought they saw one district. We said they were going to create huge factories, like Kwame Nkrumah did when we started our industrialization policy, right? We were talking about fact that they are going to employ. We are going to have a double shift. People work from 9 to 5, and then the next day, in the evening, 7 to daybreak, another group of people will come to it. But if we don't have this kind of industry, one district we are going to do gari processing, pineapple, orange. No, look at what is coming from China. Look at what is coming from Turkey. Look at what is. Will you be able to be competitive enough? So these are the kind of things that we should stop tinkering with the system and rather be very serious about how we handle things.
The president himself is reported to have said that the only way to put this country's economy back on track is to change it from the Gadgetsburg economy which we know. So if the president is saying that the economy is not ready to take off and so there will be creation of jobs, it means that that Gadgetsburg economy is no more. But certainly that is not the case now.
But of course, I mean, the president's intent, and all the times that I've heard him speak and make reference to the Gadgetsburg economy, he's indicated that we need to move away from that economy, which is what we are in now. We just produce raw material for export. He wants to move away from the Gadgetsburg economy into an industrialization, of course. And that is what is anchored on his flagship policy of one district, one factory. Sure. And you see, look, unemployment did not start in the past 12 months, as my senior colleague wants the people of Ghana to believe. Because if it was the case, okay, that infrastructure is what creates long-term sustainable jobs, and they claim to have done more infrastructure than any other government in this country, unemployment would have been solved. But here we are. The numbers of unemployed youth in this country are huge, in spite of all the so-called infrastructure development that they claim to have done. What His Excellency the President is saying is really simple. That look, we can't continue to be producers of raw material and feed industries out there in the world, in China, in Turkey, in the Americas, in UK and other places across this country. We, for instance, have a cocoa global industry in excess of 100 billion. We only, together with Ivory Coast, who produce 65% of the entire world's cocoa production, and in the region of 5 billion. How is that possible? So we need to move beyond the 5 million and play in the 50 billion space. What would it take? We need to process more of our cocoa here in Ghana than exporting the raw beans.
But are we doing that?
Of course, that's a policy that's been rolled out in the one district, one factory. And I always say that
process cocoa, the one district, one factory.
The President has clearly indicated that it's going to be agro-based processing, some of them, import substitution, and for export. I know that the bill is coming to Parliament soon, possibly this week or next week, to really develop our aluminium bauxite resources. And that clearly is going to create huge jobs. I was making a point that
since cocoa is a major export product, any talk about changing the Gadgetsburg economy should start from there.
Yeah, it started from there already. For the past 4 years or so, WAMCO, cocoa processing in Takrady, was shut down. Why? Because some disagreement on the supply of cocoa beans. WAMCO has been revived. We started production, started test production, and have started processing cocoa in Takrady as we speak. So steps are being taken. We all know that if you fail to plan, you are clearly on the path of failure from day one. So we've done 1 year of government, tried to consolidate some of the things that were not going right. All our economic indicators are looking in the right direction.
Do we know how many tons of our cocoa WAMCO is processing?
I do not have the figures offhand, but even if it was 50,000 tons, that clearly is a reduction in the raw beans that we would ordinarily be exporting and the income that we will earn.
But is
from
that
production.
enough?
It's not enough, but that is why the policy is to encourage the establishment of factories that clearly the president indicated when Mr. Ouattara came, that the two of them are working together to ensure that more value addition is added to our cocoa. It doesn't take a day to actualize that. It's a process that has commenced. And within the time that this government is in power, you would see clearly what it is that is being done in that space.
So apart from WAMCO, others are coming up.
Of course. And I am indicating that, you see, the whole notion of this one district, one factory doesn't seem to be well understood. Maybe deliberately by my friends in the NDC. Because if you recall, the Ministry of Trade held a policy summit where they laid out clearly that the industrialization plan is actually a 10-point plan, one of which is the one district, one factory. And the one district, one factory is medium to large scale import substitution, export-based industry. It's not cottage industry like Mr. Ade Kuka.
Export to where? That's another issue.
Where do we export to?
Because we know the difficulty we have with the European and American market.
Where do we export to? Could be the Asian countries, it's Europe, it's America. Don't we export to America as we speak?
The difficulty
I'm coming. We export
into that market.
Wait, you see, if we have issues with branding, marketing, and I know that all the documents that have been submitted to the One District, One Factory Secretariat that have been reviewed, all of these issues are being taken care of, okay? And when the policy goes on full steam, that the factories and industries are being set up, okay? And those things are going to happen, okay? It's not some white elephant dream or policy that is sitting on paper. People are actually on the ground working daily.
The Gary processing factory
is not a one district, one factory.
No, it will fit into
but that's why I said that there's a 10-point plan. Okay?
Great.
And there are medium, small-scale, agro-based industries all in the 10. One district, one factory is completely separate and different from the other 9. So don't say that one district, one factory is Gary processing. It is not.
But I was just asking that if we have a Gary processing factory, what will it fit into? So we produce a Gary and what? Provide a jobs for the people.
But how do you produce Gary? You process cassava into Gary.
Yes, and what?
And
where would the
Gary is a staple.
Because if we don't
Gary.
sell the Gary, we cannot pay the people, and very soon the factories will go down.
People eat Gary. People from London come and buy Gary. They crave to take Gary to UK.
So we sell the Gary to London.
Don't trivialize the issue. I mean, he made a point that one district, one factory is Gary processing, and I've made it clear to you here that the one district, one factory that the Ministry of Trade and the Secretariat is talking about is not Gary processing, okay? And that probably may find itself in one of the other policies amongst the 9 that the Ministry of Trade launched sometime in July. And Gary has a market in this country.
Honorable Minister, have you seen the map that came out that we have several Gary processing factories in certain districts? You haven't seen it.
Which map?
Okay, you haven't seen it.
Which map?
Of the 219 districts.
Did it relate to one district, one factory?
Exactly.
How so?
So you didn't see it?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, great. But let me tell you about it. There's a map of all the 216 districts. With every district, what is expected to produce? Palm kernel oil.
That's not what that document sought to portray.
Okay.
Please, what that document sought to portray was to indicate the raw material that are available in several districts across the country.
Okay, so in the Western region,
processing.
The coordinator of the one district, one factory was in Bogoso a couple of weeks ago, and the talk was about the oil palm industry. And on that map is the same thing. That district was supposed to produce oil palm. So perhaps we can take a look at that.
Well, is it not the fact that Western region produces oil palm?
It is.
Palm fruits in this country.
It is.
And so is it not the fact that if you are interested in processing, Western region will be an ideal location to put up a palm processing plant?
Exactly, that's the point.
And is it not a fact that palm processing plant is not necessarily what you call it? A small scale
it is
industry.
So
what are we talking about?
Then you talk about part of the eastern region where cassava has a competitive advantage, so a gari processing. But the key question is, what does these? Where would they fit into after producing these? How do we move on from the production to the selling and to sustain these jobs?
I'm not sure that gari processing is part of one district, one factory.
Okay, all right.
Because I've indicated to you here that as far as my understanding is, the one district, one factory is medium to large scale industries that is targeted at producing for export and producing to meet our import substitution. Okay, we import a whole lot of fruit juice in this country. So
a Kofi, for instance, can take over the
absolutely, completely.
Okay.
And that is the philosophy behind the one district.
Right. Come in, and before I bring in Johnny, I just
I'm here.
Oh yeah,
you see how my friend is struggling.
I'm not struggling. I'm not struggling at all.
Struggling.
Not at all. I'm not struggling at all.
Relax.
Go ahead.
Relax.
You see, you feel the propaganda. Yes, and that's exactly what he's seeking to do now. Go ahead. You have the floor.
I have the floor. You know, I've told my style is to keep quiet. And listen, when you finish, I tell you where you are wrong.
Okay, very quickly.
You ask me a simple question. Where does it fit? After all that, where does it fit? So that the job is, now I was talking about sustainable job.
Right.
We have had gari factories in this country for umpteen years. You rightly said, you go there. Yes, when you're coming from Sugar Copy, Ada, you see the people with gari, all those things there, right? What's the consumption of gari outside Ghana? Outside Ghana, you see, you are talking about sustainable job. You are talking about import substitution, and you ask him, what kind of job are you going to create? Look, don't let's kid ourselves. I still insist that you look at Dubai. Dubai, so many years ago, was just full of sand dunes. Today, Dubai has become the hub of the Middle East because of our infrastructure development, which will give you access to so many things: financial investment, hotelier, airlines. When you got a very good infrastructure base, you have people trying to come and locate in your country, right? And facility that they bring along will enable our people. You see, most of you say you haven't created job for the youth. Most of our youth are either in marketing, public relation, the type of courses that they go to study, puts them in a certain category. Where when you're talking about one district, one factory, you cannot get them to go and work there. Okay. You understand? So you want to create, Ghana is lacking a lot of infrastructure. Look, most international companies will want to locate in Ghana because this country has got a very peaceful atmosphere. But then, even the hotels for them to, or the offices for them to be able to rent is built. You understand? So when you're talking about, every economy thrives on huge infrastructure development, which gives you a multiplier effect. But this one district, we had a situation where where Alan Tremonti, when he was minister, let me finish. Alan Tremonti started what? The presidential initiative.
The PSI.
What? It's the same principle. This has been turned around.
His issue that you say you've done a lot of infrastructure in the past 8 years, and yet we had unemployment. It's also.
I've told you that was why we always say that there must be a paradigm shift. The paradigm shift must come from the type of courses that our students, our universities are churning out. We've got too many lawyers. Plenty. You got others in the humanities.
Okay.
You understand?
I'm grateful. Johnny has. I have a Johnny.
Yes,
You got the map here. This is the map. I'm trying to look at it.
The one district, one factory map. That so, Lawyer, you were saying that this is not a Gary factory thing.
No, a couple of them. A couple of districts that were supposed to produce.
A couple of them actually, and we have honey farms and poultry processing and all of that. But you said that Bright raised the question.
What's poultry processing?
Bright raised that. That's it. Poultry processing plant. I don't know what it means.
Construction material factory.
No, this is Banda poultry processing plant.
Poultry processing plant.
Exactly.
So that's Gary processing.
No, I'm saying that Bright raised the question. You say the issues that he raised and what Mr. Adekoka raised as well were not what the map sought to portray. This is the map now. Can you explain to us briefly in a minute or two? Are we seeing anything different? This is what we're reading, and you say it sought to portray a different thing.
But is it not the case that we import a lot of poultry products in this country? So if government intends to set up a poultry processing plant in this country to process poultry, what is it not? Is it not a factory?
It is. But the key question for us.
And is it not an import substitution based factory?
Honorable Mesa, we have difficulty getting onto the huge markets. You know, our poultry cannot get to certain markets because of certain things.
Right.
So the
is
question
it not
is, when the
import
poultry
substitution
factory
if
is
we
set
produce
up, what does it fit into?
It substitutes the importation of poultry.
Local poultry industries are collapsing because they can't export. Exactly. So how does it fit into the general plan to get these jobs and makes them sustainable? I think these are the questions we're asking. You see, and I don't think they are questions that we should just throw away.
As far as I know, okay, our local poultry industry has challenges, and the truth of the matter is
because they can't sell.
No, they can't meet the local demand itself. They can't. If they could meet the local demand, nobody will be importing poultry.
I see.
We don't produce enough poultry even to feed what you call it, KFC. Okay, so they have to import. So
not because of the quality and issues like
what
that.
Quality issues? What quality issues are we talking about?
All right, let me bring Johnny.
At Christmas we buy chicken.
Let's take some
streets.
Yes, you're right. It says Teacher Kujo in Chobodom Adantasi says Ghanaians electricity tariffs to go down in 2018 budget. Wonderful. This is the kind of president Ghanaians need in our country for now. President Akufo-Addo is God sent to Ghanaians. He promised he will fulfill. Ghanaians have hope in the MPP government will take our country to the promised land. All the best, incoming chairman for Techiman South, Alaji Jaja. And Alasan Wana says, good morning to you and your viewers. It's obvious the former President Mahama has nothing new to show the good people of Ghana and even the so-called NDC. The only legacy he left behind are corruption, cancelling of teachers' allowance, Dumso, huge debt, a married deal saga, SADA and Woyomi money scandals. I think what the NDC man is saying is right. We should wait and see what the MPP, MPPs, 2018, I don't get that. Yeah, I don't know if they're using this to blackmail us. Okay. Tell Adekoka that Adisadel College didn't take excess students. His government refused to complete a dormitory for the boys in their entire 8 years in power. Elliot House is not choked, as he's saying. Well, it's instructive to know that both gentlemen are Santa. So
well, you know, both gentlemen are Santa. The truth of the matter is, he knows that during their time, Canterbury Hall used the ground floor, okay, used to be classroom blocks when he was in Adisadel.
Anyway,
was converted to dormitories.
Let me continue my message.
He knows.
Okay, gentlemen, so Santa Clausians are hearing you. Go back to your school and help them. Good morning, Brights. The reduction of electricity tariffs by 25% in the new budget is welcome news, but a merry-go-round gimmick. Have Ghanaians calculated the cumulative percentage increase in utility tariffs in the last 10 months? Cumulatively, such tariffs were raised above 30%, and so any 25% reduction is a political scam, and Ghanaians are smarter now. Isaku Bamshe in Tamale. Bonti Benjamin and the chairman of Bwakwa says the zeal by the Akufo-Addo government to reduce electricity tariff and make job creation a priority in the coming year is a sign of great days ahead of us. Let's support the Akufo-Addo government to do more for Mother Ghana. The president, wake up from his slumber, or you say he should wake up. He keeps promising Ghanaians without fulfilling it. He said the same thing in the last budget, but rather it went up. He failed the Abosokai spare parts dealers. Corporate tax reduction promise no show. We trust his promises. We can't trust his promises again, because even when he promised the Asantehene that the Delta forces won't strike again, he failed, as he could not stop them from attacking the court. Musa Inima says so. Good morning, TV3. How can the church help your government fight vigilantism when those behind it are from your party? Mr. President, please, you were once dared by Kennedy Japan, a leading member of your party, that if you are a man, touch the Delta Force members and you will see. The next morning, the AG filed Nolly Prosequa at the KMA court to discontinue the case when there was evidence the state could use against them. What happened is history. So, Mr. President, how can the church help? Bashir Issa wants to know from Pusiga with Dana. Good morning, TV3. Please tell Nanado and Peter Meu they should stop fooling Ghanaians. That Galamsey is ongoing. Come to this mining areas and see. All excavators which were brought from the bush have all gone back. And Operation Vanguard people know where these machines are working. Edu said, that's exactly my point. A, what is the only president talking about? Creating jobs for people. 1,000 qualified small-scale miners are jobless, and you said you are creating jobs. You are replacing workers, not creating, Mr. President. Try to be serious with Ghanaians. Why? Professor Shak from Northern Region. Perhaps finally, good morning, TV3. My name is King Hassan in Zabzugu. If I may ask, what was the theme for the 2017 budget? Asempa, is it not? If my mind set me right, the theme was sowing the seeds for growth and jobs, and they are coming back to tell us that 2018 budget is going to focus on job creation. What was 2017 budget meant for, and when they thought it was the Asempa budget? I'll leave it here. We'll read some more later after this. Right. Thank you very much.
All right. I'm grateful for your time. Let's wrap up on this one. Gentlemen, I'm grateful for your time. Any 30 seconds, Honorable Mesa, just in wrapping up.
Well, I am hopeful. This week promises to be an exciting one. The budget is coming on Wednesday. I have realized that the NDC in Parliament is trying to set the tone by organizing some breakfast meeting to discuss whatever budget that has not even been read. So I wonder what it is that is going to be in their breakfast meeting. Is it today or tomorrow?
It's today. Today. Actually, yeah. I think.
So I wish them well, but I will. One of the messages that the 2017 budget was the thing was sowing seed. Of course, the seeds have been sown.
Right.
And so it's time to, as it were, harvest, and the jobs will come in 2018.
Grateful. Ni?
I remember them saying that they were going to pay all the contractors. Up to now, as we sit down, they have not been paid. Up to now. You understand? He has a simple question. This one district line, he says not a Gary factory, but your what do you call it? Exposition should indicate.
This is what came up during the
exactly. You see, so
there was a map of
until we stop these little gimmicks and try to be serious, look at the bigger picture and tell ourselves within the next 5-10 years, this is what we want to do. Seriously. But if we keep tinkering, because we want to give a political manifesto promises, we want to tinker with it and give them something is being happening. Up to now, it should tell us the contractors that they said they are going to pay, have they paid them? Still there.
But on the
I'm grateful.
Issue.
Oh, don't come back.
No, it's important.
Have you paid them?
Have you paid them?
You see, I know that the ministry is
but the
reviewing. Look, the NDC government signed contracts worth
and
it wrote
government
19 billion.
Government is continuing.
So 19. What is the total tax revenue of the country in 2016?
Okay.
Yet they signed contract worth 19 billion.
I am
take 10 budget cycles to pay. Is that responsibility?
Are there works that has to be done?
You call that responsible?
Are there works that has to be done?
Okay.
Reckless management of this country.
No. Member of Parliament for secondary constituency.
When you say 19 billion, please.
Chairman, grateful you sent in your comments, and we'll keep reading them. Have a great Monday morning. Stay with us right here because there is more coming.